Do you like to travel? For me, there's nothing like packing a bag and exploring a new destination. And whether it's in the city or out in nature, travel can be such an adventure. But also, there's nothing like coming home and sleeping in your own bed. There's a lot of noise in healthcare and you are too busy for fads. I'm Dr. Vickie and this is Healthy Looks Great on You, a lifestyle medicine podcast, life tested, doctor approved. Sleeping can be hard when you're away from home, and sometimes it can even be hard when you are home. But most people struggle to sleep when they're in a hotel. And there are a lot of reasons for that, but there are also some tips and tricks that you can use when you travel to get the sleep you need so you wake up ready to see the biggest ball of twine or whatever is on your itinerary. The thing about a hotel or a VRBO or an Airbnb or a cabin that you rented in the woods is that it's a strange place. Some certainly stranger than others, but that's not what I'm talking about. What I mean is that it's not familiar. There really is no place like home. Think about it. When you're on vacation or traveling for work, the layout of the room is different. The light switches aren't in the same place and the furniture is arranged differently. When you wake up during the night and need to go to the bathroom, your first thought may be, where is it? And what that does is turn on your brain, which of course is not the ideal state for sleeping. And it's not just the room that's unfamiliar, it's the sheets, the comforter, the pillows, the lighting, the temperature, smells, sound, everything is unfamiliar. On top of that, your schedule is likely different. On a normal day, you probably set an alarm, wake up, and go through some kind of a routine and go to work or whatever's on your schedule. You probably eat most of your meals at roughly the same time every day, and when it's bedtime, you go to bed and sleep. But on vacation, there's so much to do and see. Getting away from your routine is actually part of the allure. But if you can't sleep, it can really drag you down, and it may show up as dark circles or bags under your eyes in all those beautiful vacay photos. Then there's all the excitement of what you planned for the next day, and hopefully it's a little more adventurous than seeing the biggest ball of twine. Now let's go to mini medical school and learn about the science of not sleeping in an unfamiliar place. Oh, you thought we were going to skip mini medical school today? Listen, before I started my freshman year, a wise old doctor told me that if I dropped my pencil, I'd be 2 weeks behind by the time I picked it up. He wasn't wrong, so yes, we are going to mini medical school today. And if you still use a pencil, you can jot down today's topic. It's called the first night effect. Now, before we move on, you're going to need to know some basic anatomy. And don't worry, this is super basic. The brain is divided right down the middle into two halves called hemispheres. And speaking of hemispheres, I've had my passport stamped in a lot of different places, but only in the northern hemisphere. It's about time I traveled to the southern hemisphere. Oh wait, that's not the same as the hemispheres in the brain, and besides, we're talking about studying sleep and things do get a bit more complicated. There are 4 stages of sleep: N1, N2, N3, and REM sleep, REM, which stands for rapid eye movement. And conveniently in the N1, N2, and N3, the N stands for non-REM. Now, if only all the medical terms were that easy instead of those Latin words like eeps laying in a hotel, hey, wait, that's pig Latin. Never mind, back to sleep. No, don't go to sleep, back to learning about sleep. Anyway, some researchers actually did a small study to try and figure out why the first night effect happens. And they focused on slow wave sleep. And that happens during that N3 sleep. And this is one of 2 deep sleep stages. The other one is REM. And slow wave sleep usually occurs early in the night and it lasts about an hour, hour and a half. And it's not associated with any rapid eye movement. Why does it even matter? Well, because during slow wave sleep in the 3rd non-REM stage, the brain does some cleanup. and it processes memory. So yeah, memory is important if you want to remember your vacation. And what these scientists discovered was that the two sides of the brain were not synced to sleep on the first night. One side was more alert than the other. Kind of like sleeping with one eye open, I guess, except sleeping with one side of the brain, making sure everything is okay. Like, did I deadbolt the door? Is my car safe in the parking lot? Did I remember to pack sunscreen? Do I have my tickets to see the biggest ball of twine tomorrow? But the real question is, should you just leave a day early so that you can adjust? Or is there a better way? Well, personally, if I can leave a day early, then I'm going to cram in one more activity to make the most of my time there. And besides, most people don't have that luxury. So let's focus on some practical things you can do to minimize the first night effect and sleep in a hotel. It helps if your hotel room resembles your bedroom. But you can't even arrange the furniture so it looks more like your room at home. So instead, try making it smell more like home. I think we underestimate the power of smells. Our sense of smell can trigger a memory. The other day I smelled fish. Not stinky fish in a restaurant, but that fresh smell that you get around a lake. And it reminded me of my grandpa's cabin and all the time we spent there at the lake. So think about ways to follow your nose to a good night's sleep. Scents can be comforting, and lavender is most commonly purported to help sleep. But here's the deal. You can't just put lavender lotion in your travel bag and use it on vacation. You need to do whatever you can to make your hotel room smell more like your bedroom at home. So if lavender is your preference, then use lavender at home before you pack it to travel. And it doesn't matter if it's potpourri or room spray or a sachet bag, if that's even still a thing, or a candle. Try to connect your sense of smell with something familiar. Bring something from home, and it could be a pillowcase. But avoid white because that's going to get camouflaged in all those hotel sheets and probably get left behind. And bring your pillow if you can. Now, this is where me and my husband disagree. He likes a big fluffy pillow, and I'd prefer to sleep on a folded towel rather than something that kinks my neck. So flat pillow for me, please. Now, we travel quite a bit, and one of the first things we do when we check into a hotel is we look to see who is going to be happy about the pillows. Some hotels even have a pillow menu, so you have options. But we never remember to bring our own pillow, even when we're driving to our destination. We talk about it, let's take our pillows, but we always get there without remembering. Sometimes it's not practical anyway. But it's super easy to just bring your pillowcase. That way, the thread count, the fabric softener scent is all right there by that half of your brain that's saying, where the heck are we? And if you forget the pillowcase too, then you can cover the pillow with a shirt that smells like home. Now, you could even skip your anatomy class and still know that your ears are just as close to your brain as your nose. So let's talk about sounds. Here's a little secret. The higher floors in a hotel tend to be quieter because they're further away from street noise and traffic. Of course, you don't want to be by the elevator either. Ding, ding, ding isn't conducive for good sleep. And by the way, neither is the fire alarm. Recently, I spoke at a conference in Ohio, and about 1:30 in the morning, the fire alarm went off. No one smelled smoke, and we all suspected it was a prank by one of the many boys that had run up and down the halls all evening. But listen, we went outside anyway because who could sleep with all that racket? Well, actually, I talked to someone the next morning who did sleep right through it because she sleeps with earplugs and a sound machine. Right through the fire alarm. I suppose that has its own drawbacks, but you should at least have a noise management plan. Earplugs or a sound machine work well. You should also have a light reduction strategy. I sleep with a silky sleep mask every night, so that's easy for me to pack. It smells and feels familiar, and it's part of my nightly routine. In fact, I believe it's one of the best things I've done for my sleep because light is so impactful on sleep. But if you aren't convinced, here's another little hotel room trick. Go to the closet, grab a couple of hangers, not a coat hanger, but those skirt or pants hangers that have the little clips on them. Now, use one of them at the top and one at the bottom of the drapes to clip them together and block out the light. Moving on from the nose, the ears, and the eyes, let's talk about the mouth. Yeah, that one gets me in trouble a lot. But what you put in your mouth has a profound effect on your sleep. I talked about this on episode 181, Food as Sleep Medicine. But if you're like me, you're eating different things and drinking different things, and even if you're a teetotaler at home when people are watching, you might have a cocktail on vacation. But if you want to sleep, pretend people are still watching and avoid the nightcap. And skip dessert too. That sugar rush leads to a crash, and it's notorious for interfering with sleep. Okay, I'm starting to sound like a party pooper. You're on vacation, you want to order dessert, fine, go ahead, and I'll have some too. What I am going to do is I'll decide in advance how many bites I'm going to eat. Then when I finish 3 or sometimes 4 bites, I'm going to push it far away. So yes, I might splurge, but I'm not going off the blood sugar cliff because both too much sugar and too much salt ruins my sleep. While food can really interfere with sleep, a bigger problem is temperature. At home, we keep our bedroom as cold as a Yeti full of ice. The ideal temperature for sleeping, though, is 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And go ahead and try turning down the thermostat in your hotel room, but it often kicks off and still gets hot and stuffy. If you've got room, try packing a small personal fan instead of flannel pajamas. And ironically, taking a warm bath at night may help you relax and drift off to sleep better. Experts would tell you to stick to your routine to get a good night's sleep in a hotel room. But if I wanted routine, honestly, I'd probably just stay at home. The wonderful part about traveling is seeing new sights, smelling new smells, and tasting new foods. I might sleep a little later than normal, and I certainly stay up later. So when it comes to routine, rather than trying to mimic my schedule at home, I'm going to focus on my bedtime routine. I brush my teeth, take off my makeup, put on warm socks, put on a sleep mask, position my pillow, and if my mind is spinning, I'll try some of the techniques that I talk about in a free resource that I share with my listeners. Just go to my website, and it's www.healthylooksgreatonyou.com, and check out 3 simple strategies to sleep smarter tonight. You can use these strategies whether you're home or away. And if you're traveling across time zones, I'd like to mention jet lag. In episode 135, I discuss how to manage jet lag. Just go to my website, and there's a little search bar, and you can just type in jet lag and listen to that episode to learn more. Also, if you missed last week's interview with Dr. Stacy Funt from LH Adventure Travel, back up and listen. She perfectly summarizes why I love to travel and how it helps with health. And when I travel, I choose my dinner reservations and my hotels based on reviews. Guess what? Podcast reviews are important too. Would you please take a moment to leave a review for this podcast so others can find it? And then book the trip and bookmark these suggestions and let's go, because healthy looks great on you. The information contained in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not considered to be a substitute for medical advice. You should continue to follow up with your physician or healthcare provider and take medication as prescribed. Though the information in this podcast is evidence-based, new research may develop and recommendations may change.